And WION World is One's Bruce Harrison now joins me live for more on this developing story. Bruce, thank you for joining us on WION World is One. Now, we've seen protests in Hong Kong for the 11th straight week. What's the situation like in Hong Kong this afternoon as we speak?
Well, continuing calm largely from the rally we saw yesterday. It was quite restrained. Today, it's Monday, and frankly, most of the people that were demonstrating, if they had to work, have gone back to business as usual. There are plans for some demonstrations down the road, and I'll get to that in a bit. But yes, a day of calm and peace here in Hong Kong. What could have been a very volatile situation yesterday did not turn into one. The Civil Human Rights Front really made a strong point that the demonstrators need to turn the corner on their approach to trying to appeal to the Hong Kong government, Beijing, and the international world. And that means demonstrating in a peaceful manner. And even though the assembly, the march, I should say, was unlawful and not approved by the city, it was peaceful. It was fairly organized. No one was injured. The police did not show up. And it may be a sign that the demonstrators truly believe that peace is the only way to resolve this conflict with the Hong Kong government, and they're willing to give that a chance. I will say, though, that the group that organized that rally said if the Hong Kong government doesn't look at what happened yesterday and realize that demonstrators are willing to pursue a peaceful means of resolution, then it could turn back into a violent conflict. We haven't 100% by any means reached a new level of calm among the demonstrations.
And also, Bruce, we've seen that these protests are no longer localized. There are ripple effects across the world, in the US, in UK and elsewhere, especially, if I'm not mistaken, in Northeast Asia as well, in South Korea. But coming to the concerns expressed by some quarters about the presence of Chinese paramilitary personnel just across the Hong Kong harbour in mainland China, in Shenzhen City. So what's the fear like about those paramilitary personnel's presence?
Well, it's been a growing concern since Beijing started releasing videos, and we also have satellite imagery to understand what kind of buildup is taking place at the border. But it wasn't a focus, I would say, of yesterday's rally. While the demonstrators know that is taking place, I think at this point most people suspect Beijing is simply posturing, trying to at least warn them that intervention could be possible. But I think it's the last thing everyone wants. The Hong Kong police here maintain that they're fully capable of resolving this issue on their own. In fact, they've recently been reported as saying they're frankly disappointed in the Hong Kong government and its lack of support for them as they're dealing with a very complicated, difficult issue. But they want a peaceful resolution as well. They want to contain the demonstrators in a way that is non-violent. And any kind of intervention across the border from the PLA would create a situation of chaos that nobody here wants.
All right. On that note, Bruce Harrison, thank you for that update. Appreciate it. And staying on this developing story, protests over the Hong Kong movement have now spread across the world, with rallies taking place in the United Kingdom, Canada and the United States. Hundreds of Chinese students gathered in Trafalgar Square in London. The rally was organized to condemn the protests in Hong Kong and show support for Beijing. The protesters carried placards saying that Hong Kong is part of China and one nation, one China. Now, pro-Hong Kong demonstrations were witnessed in Washington, D.C. Over 100 people gathered outside the White House in support of the pro-democracy protesters in Hong Kong. Pro-democracy campaigners paraded waving posters slamming Hong Kong police and its brutality. Protesters also gathered in the Canadian city of Vancouver in support of Hong Kong's protesters, while pro-Beijing demonstrators gathered on the opposite side of the street.
Kong mentality is definitely there. We don't want separation. We love Hong Kong. We love China. We want them to stay together, and we don't want any sort of violence. If they want to talk, we can all sit down and have a conversation.
We want to tell you guys that the brutality of Hong Kong police and also the government for ignoring the demand of us and so many blood and sweat every single day from Hong Kong people.
Similar demonstrations were witnessed in Toronto.